Joe Rogan says the red wave is going to be like the elevator doors opening in The Shining. Fuel prices are going to skyrocket due to the diesel shortage. Fox News anchor Jesse Watters completely destroys Gavin Newsom and the Democrats. And the Supreme Court might overturn affirmative action. All of that and more here on The Bald Brad Show. Welcome to The Bald Brad Show. It is Wednesday, November 2nd, and as always, I couldn't be happier than to kick this morning off right, doing The Bald Brad Show and hanging out with all of you, my friends and true American patriots, where we come together as a community of conservatives and Republicans, and heck, the way the polls are going, maybe some Democrats as well. Go over the stories of the day and bring all the news and information you need to know about. So if you want to join us here at The Bald Brad Show and you haven't done so, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. If you're over at Rumble, yes, folks, we do have a Rumble account. We've had one for quite some time. Make sure you hit that plus and give us a comment down below. And if you're listening on any of the podcast airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, heck, folks, you can find us and listen to us anywhere and everywhere. Leave us a lovely 5-star review. Not only would you be helping a conservative, but most importantly, you'd be supporting getting conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. So your help and support would be greatly appreciated. Hit that like button. The YouTube algorithm absolutely does love it. And just double check to make sure you have that bell notification icon clicked so you're notified whenever we upload or go live, which is Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with Supernatural Saturdays and a sprinkling of politics on Sunday. Be notified by hitting that bell icon. With that being said, let's jump into our first segment of the day, with Joe Rogan, host of the Joe Rogan Experience, said during a recent show that he believes that the upcoming midterm elections are going to be a bloodbath for Democrats. Now, folks, if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, please do so now. But it's interesting because many, many months ago, we talked about here on the Bald Brad Show how there is going to be a red tsunami. And we were all stoked about it and all uppity about it. And then a few months went by and we looked at the poll numbers again and go, oh, shoot, we had an OSHIT moment because it wasn't going to be as much of a tsunami as we thought. We'd only pick up maybe 1, maybe 2 Senate seats. We still thought we would pick up a good handful of House seats, but not as much as we thought months prior. Now, many months go by again, and now we're talking about a massive red tsunami. And I mean massive because for every, I think it's 8 to 9 new Republicans, there's only 1 new Democrat. So you have the Democrat Party just freaking out. Chuck Schumer was on Hot Mic the other day with Joe Biden saying they're about to be shellacked. Things aren't looking good for him. Well, you got Joe Rogan talking about this on his podcast with a comedian here. Rogan made the remarks while speaking to comedian Bridget Phetasy, I think her last name is, about the culture of fear that exists in America where people don't feel like they can voice their opinions without facing backlash. We've talked about this at length on the Bald Brad Show. There's a lot of truth to this because you don't have to look any further than the average conservative or Republican or heck, an independent getting removed off Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, the social media platforms are just shellacking conservatives. You've had Steven Crowder be banned with a strike on YouTube. Savannah Hernandez of Sav Says on YouTube, who's a Turning Point USA contributor ambassador. She's had 2 videos taken down in the last week with over 600,000 views on each. She's been banned on Twitter. She's on Instagram. That's the only way she can get her message across now. She's just completely getting shellacked by social media. You've had me, who I believe being shadow banned, and we covered the data of all of that on the Bald Brad Show here just the other day. You have Jordan B. Peterson being banned on Twitter for saying a biological male is in fact a male. You had the same thing happen to Charlie Kirk. You had the same thing happen to the Babylon Bee. You had the same thing happen to the editor-in-chief of the Federalist. I mean, the list literally goes on and on and on with conservatives, Republicans being banned, censored on YouTube. And the left still come out going, oh, you're just being a baby. Oh, you can still get your voice out. You can still be heard. Whatever. I can't wait till Elon Musk just shows all the data out there of all the censorship that's been happening to Republicans, all the throttling that's been happening to conservatives, all the banning and just all the stuff. I can't wait till it gets exposed out there in the light. Well, Rogan made the remarks after Phetasy said that she believes that a lot of people who buy into the transgender movement do so to signal that they are a part of the high status in-group. I mean, you've had a massive increase, mostly of actually females converting to male status, more than ever. Before, it used to affect primarily males wanting to convert to females. You've had a massive uptick in females. Yeah, it's strange, Rogan said. It's real strange to just openly accept all this stuff without any pushback. And we do have a video clip here in one moment, folks. Quote, I think there will be pushback though. Again, I think we're seeing it in Europe, Phetasy said. And they were like the leaders of this kind of movement. And now it seems like they're coming to their senses a little bit and following science. I don't necessarily see that, although we might see it in the midterms. You know, like again, people tend to voice their opinion on these things at the ballot when they don't have to voice their opinion, meaning they're doing it behind the scenes. And we kind of saw this a little bit in the 2016 election with Trump, where the polls were way off. I mean, Hillary thought this was just going to be a shoo-in. And then, of course, she ends up losing and the polls were completely wrong. Come when you had the elections with Joe Biden v. Trump, the polls were wrong once again. And then you have Joe Biden initiating and win because the polls were so off. You have Joe Rogan saying, and there are a lot of people there that are afraid of talking about it. Well, yeah, because you don't want to lose your job. You don't want to be called a racist, a sexist, bigot, homophobe, all these things. You don't want to be deplatformed. You don't want to be banned. You don't want to handle the consequences for just having an opinion that goes against the narrative of somebody else. Well, here's the clip from the Rogan Experience with the comedian as well as Joe Rogan.
The red wave that's coming is going to be like the elevator doors opening up in The Shining. That's what I think. I think people are just like, what the fuck are you saying? They're making Republicans.
I don't know how they're doing it. I had a family member.
She'll get into her family member in a moment, and I promise we'll continue. I know how they're doing it because they're running the country into the ground, and the average American can see it. Again, we'll continue in one moment here, but let's talk about it because I can see why you have Democrats coming to the Republican side of the aisle. Democrats have all three branches of government, and they suck at their job. Look at what they're doing. I mean, hell, you're paying 30% plus increase in energy. You're paying up the wazoo for gas prices at the pump. You're paying more for the grocery bill at the grocery store. I mean, it's thing after thing with the Democrat Party. You have massive immigration. You have Russia invading Ukraine. You have China wanting to invade Taiwan. You have Iran wanting to build nuclear warheads. You have North Korea wanting to build nuclear warheads. Our foreign policy sucks. I mean, the average American can really see through all the BS that the Biden administration is trying to push out there. They're pushing this woke ideology. They're pushing transgenderism. They're wanting to castrate your children. And the Biden administration's all for it. Just had a transgender person at the White House. And Biden himself confirmed what they put out in a PR statement just many months before about wanting to give them hormone blockers, puberty blockers, hormone enhancers, take off their breast, remove their genitals, all these things they're all for. So it makes total sense why Americans aren't for this and why they're coming to the Republican Party, because they have their senses in tune and they finally waking up to all the craziness that's being done by the Democrat Party. And they're blaming Republicans for all of it when, again, they have all three branches of government. They don't need the Republicans' help, but somehow it's all our fault. Let's continue.
Who's a boomer and a diehard liberal. And they told me when I was home this summer that they would vote for DeSantis. And I'm like, how did you lose this person?
Yeah.
How did you lose this person? This is a like, go to the ballot and vote blue no matter what. And you've lost even the boomers.
The red wave that's coming.
Honestly, it doesn't surprise me. What surprises me a little bit more is you have some of the progressive left actually waking up on this stuff and looking and going, man, this guy sucks. I mean, just look at the way that he handles his teleprompter. He fights with it all the time. It's right there with him. I get that people try to think about the things that they're about to say. It happens to us here on the Bald Brad Show where you fumble your words, you maybe misquote or missay something. For example, I said 2 billion illegal immigrants when I meant 2 million. Thank God there's avid listeners on the Bald Brad Show that sit there and go, hey, the guy meant 2 million. He's usually spot on with his words, clearly talking and speaking too fast, jumping ahead. It happens. I get it. I get people fumbling every now and then. Way different than Biden. Biden slurs his words. He says the wrong thing all the time. His calculations are always wrong. He makes up stories, has been making up stories forever. Hits a golf ball backwards, falls up a flight of stairs. Literally, his own White House admin are afraid that he's going to trip over a camera cable, you guys, and break a hip, and there goes the president. That's not a joke. Literally, everybody's freaking out over it. There's a reason why he hasn't done a press conference in the same briefing room that Karine Jean-Pierre does her press conferences. I've never seen it, and I've been asking for months, has anybody seen a video clip of that guy standing on the podium since he's been president, answering unvetted questions from the press? Or he has to sit there and get vetted questions, right? He knows which reporter he's going to ask or talk to. He knows what the question is beforehand. Probably somebody talking in his earpiece. There's been reports of Joe Biden giving Joe Biden actual drugs to sit there and make him somewhat cognizant and sentient. I mean, it's thing after thing where people are looking at it and go, this is not good. Who the hell is the Democrat Party anymore? And I've said the reason why I started talking about the Democrat Party and the progressive left at the same time is because they are coming so close together. It is ridiculous. You have Black Lives Matter part of the Democrat Party virtually. You have Antifa, who Democrats still think is just an ideology, that they're not an actual group. It's just all fictitious. It's all conspiracy theory. It's all made up. I mean, they are coming more and more into the progressive left side of the aisle than the Republican Party or conservatives are coming into the far left side. But that's the narrative they want to push. It's all our fault. We're extremists. We're a threat to democracy. Look at January 6th. Oh, all Republicans are all for January 6th. Which, again, I know I'm repeating myself for those that watch the Bald Brad show all the time. We are not for January 6th. So if there's any progressive left Democrat Party members that actually listen through a whole episode rather than 10 seconds, we don't like January 6th here on the Bald Brad show. They're a bunch of idiots that stormed the Capitol. Idiots that went inside, okay? We can only be so clear. I don't even think they hold Republican and conservative values if they're willing to do those things, because we hold traditional and moral values here on the conservative side of the aisle. But I digress with that whole thing, because I'm going to be freaking rambling like no other. But it makes sense to me, again, why the Democrat Party is moving over into the Republican side of the aisle, because there's those that are actually centrist, that are in the middle, the independents that are switching over going, man, DeSantis would run this country better. Republicans would run this country better, which speaks of something, because they all thought that we were idiots before, right? So if they think that idiots could run the country better, what does that make Joe Biden, the White House, and the rest of the freaking Democrat Party? Because, boy, oh boy, are they about to be shellacked like no other. And if you recall, they all see it coming. Nancy Pelosi knows it's coming. Chuck Schumer literally was caught on a hot mic telling Joe Biden, trying to at least give him some sort of information really slow, like, hey, Joe, we're about to get shellacked, buddy, okay? Wake up, Joe. You're about to get lit up at the polls because you suck at your job, but you're going to blame Republicans for everything. You're running the country, Joe. Stop with the nap time. Wake up a little bit. Work with Congress here on actually getting stuff passed through. I don't know, maybe increasing domestic oil production. Maybe that'd be a good start. No, but we don't. You want to know what Joe Biden wants to do? He wants to tax the oil companies, to tax their profits. Where do you think that gets passed down to? Where do you think the taxes gets passed down to, folks? You and I. But he's going to increase taxes. These guys are idiots. Gavin Newsom of California literally wants to give people gas cards to help curb inflation based on the rising gas prices that were initiated virtually through the Biden administration, because they don't want to increase domestic oil production. The Saudis just screwed them over, right, with the 2 billion barrels of oil less a day. You have them wanting to go to a dictatorship in Venezuela to get oil from them. Rather than just being self-sufficient in oil and energy here, they want to go to other places. So let that one sink in. Doesn't shock me that finally we got Democrats waking up, coming over to the dark side. Join us. Come to the dark side. Well, speaking of dark things and dark sides, we have a massive diesel fuel shortage coming up here, folks. We did cover this the other day where we talked about, heck, in 25 days, we're virtually going to be out of diesel oil. And I kind of blew it off. Some of you did ask in the comments, well, what's going to happen? And I said, hey, gas prices are going to go up. Diesel prices are going to go up. Now, if you recall, diesel used to be cheaper than unleaded, or the cheap stuff, okay, however you want to call it. I don't know what you guys call it in other states. The unleaded used to be more expensive virtually than diesel. It's not that way anymore. You have a massive issue coming up here, and John Kirby was asked by a reporter in the White House what he thought of it. He didn't even have a clue that it was going to happen. It was news to him that we're going to run out of diesel. I mean, hell, how do you think people get their energy on the East Coast, at least some of them? Diesel. How do you think our freight gets around? Diesel. So what do you think happens if we don't have any more diesel? Do you think the demand for diesel is going to go up because we don't have that much, which is going to cause the prices to freaking skyrocket? Well, they already have, folks, and we got video clips for you galore here today. If you haven't already hit the like and subscribe button, do so now. We would appreciate your support. It says here, be prepared to spend even more on consumer goods because of diesel fuel shortage in southeastern United States. It's not just southeastern, so don't be fooled by this specific article. This specific article is for southeastern states. It's going to hit us here in the West Coast, and boy, oh boy, is it going to shellac everybody. The shortage is caused in large part by routine refinery maintenance this time of year, and refineries competing with households using more energy to heat their homes. I think this is quite honestly a little bit of BS, because the refinery maintenance comes up every now and then, and we know kind of when that maintenance is going to occur because it usually occurs year after year. But also, it's not that we're using more energy than years previous based on the climate that's going on. So I think basically they're trying to cover for the Biden administration on this in terms of fuel prices and trying to say, oh, well, it's refinery problems. The reason why I know this is because they do the same thing in California here. We pay the highest in gas all across the 50 union, or the 50 states, the other 49 states. We pay more than anybody else, okay? Virtually, other than maybe Pennsylvania. And they're blaming, oh, well, it's just because the refineries are down due to maintenance. Well, it's also because we used to have 50 refineries, and now we have 15 or 16 that's down due to maintenance because nobody wants to do business in your states because you want to shellac them. You want to virtually put them out of business, which Peter Doocy called out in Karine Jean-Pierre and said, hey, you know what? What are you going to do because you virtually want to put these oil companies out of business? She goes, well, why would you say that? Why do we want to put them out of business? And we did a whole montage of Joe Biden during the campaign trail saying that he literally wants to remove fossil fuel, that he wants to get rid of the fossil fuel industry. So why would the fossil fuel companies want to take out more permits, utilize those permits, and put that type of investment down into whatever it is they need to do to start drilling when you know that you have an administration that just wants to shellac you, wants to remove all your profits, wants to do away with you, wants to put all of this money into renewable energy rather than invest it into fossil fuels that's going to help kickstart our economy and make things better. So we're not paying as much at the fuel pump. So we're not paying as much when we freaking pay our energy bill, or we're not paying as much when we go to the grocery store for consumer goods, but they're going to say, it's all due to maintenance. It's all due because people are heating up their homes. It's not even that cold yet, okay? It's not that cold. It's going to get way colder. So if we're talking about things are bad now, wait till people really start lighting up their homes. North Carolina State University professor Michael Walden said both refineries and energy companies use the same molecular makeup that creates further competition for a valuable ingredient. Demand for that goes up in the winter. And so that sort of competes with diesel fuel. But diesel fuel is 25 days out from being freaking gone. So what's going on there? It hasn't hit the coldest part yet, folks. So who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be some apocalyptic stuff here going on. The impact can be felt by consumers across the country because the big rig trucking industry heavily relies on diesel fuel in its trucks. The increase in basically diesel price specifically, which is currently at $5.30 per gallon, is passed on to consumers so companies can remain profitable. Oh, goody, goody. Well, we have a clip here of all this from the news. Let's go ahead and roll it.
I'll let you know. First off, I spoke with an economist and a couple of truck drivers today, and they say that there's simply no way around it, that we're all going to feel this shortage in some form or fashion. Stephen Kelly has been a truck driver for more than 30 years now.
5 million plus miles and counting.
Throughout the past 3 decades, he's seen it all, and now having to roll with the flow of a diesel shortage.
Before, when it was only like $3, now it's $5.
The average cost for a gallon of diesel, $5.30.
We used to have $1,000 to get fuel every 24-hour period. They had to move that up to $1,500.
The shortage caused in large part due to refinery maintenance this time of year and an unlikely source.
The reason is that diesel fuel, in terms of its refinement from oil, competes directly with home heating oil. Demand for that goes up in the winter, and so that sort of pushes out or competes with diesel fuel.
In the end, that increase in cost.
Look, if that was the case, and I do 100% agree with him to some extent, if it is the case, fully what he's talking about, we would see this type of shortage literally every year. Like, this would be a very common thing. We're about to hit nothing, like no supply whatsoever. So what is he talking about? Like, it's due to maintenance. It's due because we're competing with home energy prices and home energy oil because they utilize diesel. Folks, does that make sense to you? Does that really seem like that's the underlying issue here? Or is it that we just don't have oil and fuel because the Biden administration doesn't want to drill? They can't get oil from Saudi Arabia virtually because Saudi Arabia's giving them the middle finger and talking crap behind Joe Biden's back. They're asking Venezuela for oil rather than freaking just doing it here. They don't want to. So now we're all gonna get screwed. Happy holidays, folks. Christmas is coming early.
Cost is passed on to consumers.
Now, if you go coast to coast, like when I run the coast, I fuel 6 times, 3 on the way out and 3 on the way back. That's like $6,000 just in fuel. That's not paying the driver, you know. So that cost has got to go somewhere, you know. And that's people who shop in the stores and so on.
Consumers are feeling it, and so are newcomers into the industry.
They're telling everybody that's coming in, be your own boss, be independent, buy a truck. And it's really hard these days because of that, because of fuel.
And for one truck driver who did not want his face to be shown, there's one way to put it.
How the industry is going right now, you know, it's ridiculous. It's just like, what do you do? You know, do you just continue to put less fuel in, or, you know, what do you do? You know, there's nothing really you can do.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really you can do until you freaking increase the supply of oil. But Joe Biden, guys, he says he's doing everything he can. Don't you trust Joe Biden? He's doing everything he possibly can. He's losing sleep over it. 2 years in, and you're still paying up the wazoo for gas. But it's all Putin's fault. And if it's not Putin's fault, it's the Republicans' fault, according to the Biden White House. Well, this continues on Fox Business with another trucking company spending an extra $70,000 a week for diesel. Let's go ahead and hear their story.
Bart Plaskoff is the president of Summit Trucking in Dallas, and he joins me now. Bart, you're not passing along the cost of higher diesel, and you're not laying people off. We understand this. But you're paying what? An extra $70,000 a week for diesel? That's not sustainable. How much longer can you absorb these higher costs?
Stuart, thanks for having me. Last year we were paying on average about $2.60 a gallon. Right now it's about $5.50 a gallon. I learned early on in my career, you had to save for a rainy day. That rainy day is upon us. We're able to pass along some of the higher costs in a fuel surcharge to our customers, but ultimately the consumer.
So it is getting passed on.
How much longer, though, can you absorb these costs? Surely at some point you've just got to pass them on or go out of business.
Well, we are passing them on in a fuel surcharge to our customers, but again, I've saved for these rainy days. Who's getting hurt are the smaller guys, the independent contractors, the guys that have 1 to 10 trucks. Those are the guys that are really hurting. And those are the guys we're trying to help when they're looking for jobs right now.
How much do your drivers make? Can you tell me that?
You know, a good driver can make anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 a year, depending on how long he's on the road. He can be on the road for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Those guys make more money. But again, the higher fuel costs are hurting the smaller guys, the independent contractors, the guys that have 1 to 10 trucks. I'm able to negotiate a fuel discount with the larger truck stop chains. That helps me offset these higher costs. And again, you have to save for these rainy days. Trucking is a very cyclical business, and we're prepared for these times. Margins are thin, but we'll make it through it. It's the smaller guys you got to help.
Do you know of small?
I'm going to pause it there. They go on a little bit longer, but there's actually a really great point that they're making here of it's the smaller guys that are getting screwed. And this is kind of an economic fallacy in a way of a lot of times government or regulation, they'll put something in place and always look at that 20% of businesses. And if you look at small businesses, they make up roughly 80% of businesses just in general. And I believe it's 20 employees or less that make up a small business. So when you increase, say, minimum wage, for example, yeah, those 20% of companies or the top 10% can eat those costs because of the business that's coming in. But who gets screwed is the mom and pop shops, the small businesses. In the same way here, when you have gas prices going through the roof, yeah, he can eat it. He gets a discount on maybe wholesale with the supplier or the middleman that he's getting diesel from or he's getting certain contracts from. Or at the same time, he's able to pass it on to his customer by doing a surcharge, and his customer is willing to pay for it, as well as a rainy day because he was able to save up. So looking at the small guy, the guys that have 10 trucks or less are completely getting shellacked here because they don't have the type of margins that maybe this gentleman has here because they're a small business. You have some people who that's just their one truck and they're trying to make ends meet here and they're getting shellacked, and it's going to get worse, folks. Again, there's nothing that's going to say that this is going to get better. I think we need to understand that is that the supply is there for 25 days. As far as what I'm reading, there's nothing that say that supply is going to increase. So you're going to see diesel go through the roof. It has to get passed on to the consumer. It's not every business is going to be like this guy that's just going to eat these freaking costs. Like, it's crazy that this guy's going to sit there and eat those costs. Go, oh, it's a rainy day. I'd be curious of how much of that cost he's actually eating himself. I don't think it's going to be that much, and I could be wrong. I think he's passing a lot of this down onto the consumers with that fuel surcharge. But boy, oh boy, are people getting shellacked, and they're going to show up at the polls. The blue collar, the white collar workers are all going to show up and vote red because we want to increase domestic oil production. We don't want to go to Venezuela for oil. We don't want to go to Saudi Arabia for oil. We can do it here, and we just don't do it. I'm not saying we can't go to Saudi Arabia. I'm not saying we can't go to Venezuela. But hell, if you just start doing it here, it's going to open up a lot of pathways. When energy's up 30, 34%, it's going to help out a lot when you got your own diesel here in America. But that's the Biden administration. They have it all figured out, you guys. If they haven't figured out in 2 freaking years, do you think they're going to figure out in the next 2 years? No, they're not. They're lying to all of you. He's doing everything he can. Everything he can. BS. BS, 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 and Americans see it. Well, speaking of BS that the Democrats have been pushing, Jesse Watters of Fox News calls out the BS of the Democrat Party in this clip here. And you guys, I mean, this is one you don't want to miss. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, because he does a phenomenal job here just completely shellacking the Democrats and what they're saying about him in terms of him calling out Paul Pelosi, the guy, was it DePapi or DePepe, whatever the hell the freaking insane dude was saying and did to Paul Pelosi. Well, Gavin Newsom attacks Jesse Watters here, and Jesse Watters just comes out and eviscerates in a 5-minute clip here, 6-minute clip, the Democrat Party. We got to watch this together, folks. Let's watch it.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is running for president. So when a mentally ill, homeless drug addict who's committed crime after crime in his state and was never deported attacks Paul Pelosi with a hammer, Gavin Newsom has to blame anybody but himself. And Gavin Newsom thinks Jesse Watters is to blame.
Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like that blames everybody else but themselves? God, could it be our president, Joe Biden? Blames China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, the Republicans, Putin's price hike. I mean, this and that, it's everybody else's fault. It couldn't possibly be Joe Biden and the Democrat Party that's just running the show. They got to blame everybody else. So you got Gavin Newsom doing the same exact thing, blaming Jesse Watters for the attack that took place on Paul Pelosi. Unbelievable.
For Paul Pelosi getting hammered.
I've seen the dehumanization of Nancy Pelosi. I don't think anyone's been dehumanized like she has consistently. I mean, I watched this one guy, was it Jesse Watters or something on Fox News, what he's been saying about Paul Pelosi the last 5-6 months, mocking him consistently. Don't tell me that's not aiding and abetting all this. Of course it is. They're sowing the seeds of creating a culture.
Aiding and abetting? Dude, you have a sanctuary city in your state that I live in. You are literally aiding and abetting an illegal immigrant. What are you talking about? You're going to blame... Don't even get me started. Let's continue. I apologize, folks.
In a climate like this. I mean, it's look online. Look at the sewage that is online that they amplify on these networks and in social media to dehumanize people like Nancy Pelosi and other political leaders.
First of all, Gav, thanks for watching, but let's set the record straight. Paul Pelosi got drunk and nearly killed someone with his car. And then the Napa County DA, hey, Allie, made it go away. We reported that Paul Pelosi got special treatment and mocked him for trying to bribe officers with a PBA donor card. We had to wait forever to get to the bottom of what happened that night, and there's still questions we have. But Gavin Newsom thinks if you mock a Democrat, it puts him on a target list. So Gavin's saying that by saying that he uses more hair gel than John Travolta in Grease, it's going to make people show up to his house with hammers. We've always said Gavin's biggest flaw, he's not very smart. The deranged drug addict who talks to fairies and lives on a school bus didn't watch prime time and head on over to Pelosi's house with a hammer. And has Gavin read the affidavit? Because DePape wasn't going over there to get Paul. He was going there for Nancy. If anything, Gavin Newsom has done more to aid and abet this attack on Paul Pelosi than anybody. David DePape is a homeless criminal and an illegal alien. DePape overstayed his visa for years, committed crimes. California is a sanctuary state, so he was never deported. So let me ask you a question. Who's more at fault here? The governor who didn't deport the deranged drug addict felon who thinks he's Jesus? Or the news guy who fairly covered Paul's DUI case? I think we both know the answer. But it's not just me they're targeting. Joe Biden managed to blame the entire Republican Party.
You can't condemn the violence unless you condemn those people who continue to argue the election was not real, that it's being stolen, that all the malarkey that's being put out there to undermine democracy. You can't...
Isn't Hillary Clinton in the news for literally saying that Republicans are rigging the upcoming election? I mean, there's literally footage of it. So what is this guy talking about? His own party is coming out and saying that Republicans are rigging the midterm elections. Hillary Clinton still thinks that she won, you guys. Stacey Abrams of Georgia still thinks that she won. What is this guy talking about? Wake up, Joe. Get the aviators off your face. It doesn't work.
Just apologize and say the violence. It affects people's mentality. It affects how people think. Condemn what produces the violence. And this talk produces the violence.
And then the media blamed the Paul Pelosi attack on January 6th.
Police say zip ties were found at the scene, just like the ones found on those who were hunting Nancy Pelosi at the Capitol on January 6th.
Folks. What the hell? What the hell? Really? That's how far, you guys, the media is willing to go. That they're talking about the zip ties were the same. Well, the guy had on the same sneakers as some of the other people that went into the Capitol. Yeah, he had on the same shirt too. Like, really? You're gonna go down to the zip ties being the same? You guys are so crazy. This is how far they will go to try and just get anything and everything they can to be absorbed as to being the same in January 6th. Oh, well, they all had beards. They must be January 6th supporters. Oh, they had the same zip ties, and they had the same shoes, and they had the same shirts, and they like the same movies, and they like the same this and that. Like, come on, it's crazy.
And that's not the only similarity.
Zip ties. He had zip ties with him. What does that tell you?
And duct tape, and was asking for Nancy that this was a...
Oh, my God. I was being satirical with the shoes. They're going down to the duct tape now. I was freaking joking. That's what I said. Like, the satire has turned into real life where you're literally joking about favorite movies, the shirt, the shoes. Zip ties and duct tape, folks. I'm not even going to continue. It's so freaking nuts. It's so nuts. I can't do it. I just want to walk out right now. I just want to end the podcast because it's so BS crazy that these people are tying in zip ties and freaking duct tape into the January 6th events in conjunction with Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, being attacked.
A violent act targeted against the Speaker of the House. There's a performative nature of the political violence we've seen. We saw it on January 6th. So it's very similar to January 6th.
It's reports that the same chant was used by this guy they have in custody that was used on January 6th in the attack on the U.S. Capitol. I'm not making this up.
You guys help me. It's so stupid. It is so stupid. They said the same chant, so it must be the same. It must be. And they have the same zip ties, same glow sticks. They have the same craziness. It's just, come on. It's so stupid.
You know who also had zip ties? Nicholas Roski. Sound familiar? That was the liberal fanatic who tried to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. He also had duct tape, a hammer, a gun, and a crowbar. But for some reason, the media forgot all about that story. The Democrats accused Kavanaugh of racism, gang rape, drugging women, then leaked that he was going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and a madman zipped across the country ready to kill. Did the media blame themselves? Did the media tone down their language? No. The media dropped the story like a bad habit. And now CBS is demanding Republicans drop their ads before the midterms.
Republican candidates have spent more than $116 million on ads that mention Speaker Pelosi by name in this cycle. If this is about the issues, why should make it about the issues? Why not depersonalize it?
It is absolutely about the issues.
We are 8 days out. Don't you think this needs to change? Why not pull some of these ads?
I see. So no one's allowed to criticize Nancy's politics ever again, especially not before a wave. We're just supposed to lay down and let Democrats win and pull the ads. They're not mentioning that David DePape's ex said he was an Obama guy and a progressive. But the media and the left are jumping on the Republicans are to blame wagon. When the Bernie bro who shot Steve Scalise, did you hear any of us blaming Bernie? But the same can't be said for members of the media who celebrated attacks on Republicans, like when Rand Paul got his ribs cracked by his neighbor. And MSNBC gushed about how it was one of their favorite stories.
New details today on the incident that left Senator Rand Paul with 6 broken ribs. This might be one of my favorite stories.
Don't you love when Republican senators' ribs get cracked? It was one of their favorite stories. How come Gavin Newsom didn't say anything about that?
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.
Man, I mean, he eviscerates them, folks. And that's what you do. You use their own words against them. You bring to light and expose them for who they are. They're a bunch of knuckleheads. They sit there and rub the shoulders of the Democrat Party and the progressive left. And you know what? It just shows. Keep doing what they're doing. Have the media keep doing what they're doing, because Americans are waking up. They're seeing that the media is in the freaking beds of the Democrat Party and the progressive left. They sit there and talk about January 6th, that. A year later, well over a year later, but where's the conversation about what Black Lives Matter did and Antifa of burning down our cities, causing $2 billion in damages compared to the $1.5 million that was done at the Capitol? Where's that conversation at? So talk about, oh, well, we can't be targeting Nancy Pelosi. We should be talking about the substance and the ideas. We should be talking about like the policies there. Okay, we could do that as well, but it's Nancy Pelosi that's helping run this country into the ground and has been. I mean, hell, look at her state. How is she Speaker of the House? I have no idea, because she can barely speak without her dentures falling out of her face. Moving into our last story of the day. If you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, folks, please do. We have the Supreme Court poised to overturn affirmative action president's key activist forecast. Now, this is quite interesting because I am not a fan of affirmative action. I actually think it's racist. I think it's wrong that you're going to allow somebody to get hired by a job or being led into a university or an institution based on the color of their skin to meet certain diversity quotas, and you're kind of screwing over somebody else. So say a black person gets in because they need to increase the diversity quota of black people, but you're going to throw out an Asian student that's qualified to be at that university compared to maybe a black person that's not qualified. And that could go any direction. You could say a white person that's underqualified to go to that university to meet the white quota, and you're going to screw the black person or the Asian person who's more qualified than that white person to go to the university. I mean, regardless of race, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Merely just giving examples. I think it's wrong, and hell, I think it's racist, and I don't think it should be implemented. Folks, look how Karine Jean-Pierre got her job. We shellac that all the time, every week. She didn't know how to do her job, but it was diversity quota she had to be put in. Activists behind the push to end affirmative action are confident that the Supreme Court will overturn precedents upholding race-conscious admissions following oral arguments on Monday. God, I hope they do. Students for Fair Admissions, a legal advocacy group which opposes granting applicants an advantage because of their racial identity, has filed complaints against both Harvard University and the University of North Carolina. Harvard University has been in the mix for quite some time. This is not the only time they've received complaints, or at least legal issues regarding affirmative action. So both for employing racially and ethnic discriminatory policies and procedures when accepting students. The lawsuit against Harvard argued that Asian American students required significantly higher standardized test scores than their peers to gain admission to elite schools. Regardless of the impact that's going on at home, they had to still perform better on the standardized test than other races, and they were still being rejected in favor of the other races because they needed to meet a diversity quota. That's crazy. You're being judged purely by your race rather than the character of who you are and your test scores. I mean, that literally goes against Dr. King's whole message. Justice Clarence Thomas and his conservative-leaning colleagues were skeptical that racial diversity truly offers educational benefits and appeared to find arguments offered by North Carolina State Solicitor General Ryan Park largely unpersuasive. Actually, the data goes against what affirmative action speaks about. Heather McDonald does a fabulous job here of detailing this out in conjunction with Thomas Sowell through his books, specifically Diversity and Disparities from Thomas Sowell. Great book, pick it up. But it talks about basically looking at this discrepancy in affirmative action where you're having certain, regardless of skin color, just pick any skin color, if they're not qualified to get into that university, what happens is they tend to actually drop out, or they unperform, I mean, against the general public in terms of those that got in, rightfully so, based on their test scores. They underperform them by a lot. And like I said, a lot of them just end up dropping out after 2 years because they shouldn't be going there in the first place because they're not qualified just based on, I hate to use the word intelligence, but for the purpose of kind of getting my point across, their intelligence level is just not up there where it should be compared to those that actually got in based on the performance of which they should have got in for. So those that are just getting in purely based on race are underperforming by a lot. Cool. I thought it was a very deeply engaging argument, he commented. I remain hopeful that the arguments that both of our attorneys made will be persuasive to the court, and that ultimately the court will strike down the use of race and ethnicity in college admissions. Bloom referenced several examples of universities largely attended by a particular racial group, including Spelman College, a historically black school, and University of Texas San Antonio, a predominantly Hispanic college, and said one would have difficulty proving that students' experiences are diminished by a lack of peers belonging to other ethnicities. I mean, you've even heard college campuses doing separated racial graduations. They have separated, segregated dorms. I mean, it is amazing to see how the progressive left and Democrat Party are literally reverting back to how they used to be in history by wanting segregation once again. I mean, talk about history repeating itself. I mean, there you go. It goes on to say, Color Us United President Kenny Xu, or Xu, who was instrumental in encouraging students of California to overwhelmingly reject a ballot measure that would have returned affirmative action to the state, told the Daily Wire that schools embracing affirmative action violate two sacrosanct principles of the American experiment. Quote, the first is, don't treat anybody by your race. You should be treated by the content of your character, not the color of your skin. God, that sounds like a lot of what I just said in Dr. King's message. The second is meritocracy as the basis of the American dream. That is why immigrants come to this country, because they believe that they are not going to be treated on the basis of their background, because this is the land of opportunity and that will give you a chance to work hard and make it in this country. Progressive left doesn't think so, folks. They don't even believe in the American dream. They think that people are automatically oppressed based on the color of their skin when they arrive at this country or they're born out of the womb. That you can't rise up, that since the dint of birth, you're going to be oppressed by institutions out there because institutions are racist. What institutions? They can't say it. Who are those institutions that are racist? They can't say it. How long have they been racist? What policies, what laws in the books are racist? They can't say it. It's just there's racism out there in the ether. There's some nameless, faceless, shadowy figure that wants to oppress you and hold you down, but they can't point towards it. Several analyses have uncovered the disadvantages faced by Asian Americans in college admissions processes seeking to reserve places for Black and Hispanic students. Check this out. One study from 2009 concluded that Asians required an SAT score of roughly 140 points higher than white applicants, 270 points higher than Hispanic applicants, and I hope you're sitting down for this one, 450 points higher than Black applicants, according to a report from the Asian American Coalition for Education. That is so wrong, it's ridiculous. Somehow, though, that's not racist, you guys. Somehow, that's completely acceptable to the Democrat Party and the progressive left. If they are excelling greater than other races, regardless of race, you met the qualifications based on character to get into that institution. I'm not saying there aren't other metrics that we can look at here, but if you're going strictly based on race to meet a certain quota, God, that sounds a hell of a lot racist to me. You had the person go on and say who was in attendance while the Supreme Court heard oral arguments, noted that strong majorities of Asian, Hispanic, whites, and a near majority of Black voters in California rejected the affirmative action measure, implying that the issue extends beyond ethnic lines. Indeed, nearly 3/4 of Americans believe colleges and universities should not consider race or ethnicity when making decisions, admission decisions to be specific, according to a Pew Research poll. It's not going to stop them from continuing to push this, and I can see a lot of backlash coming from the left. Steven Crowder has done a great Change My Mind on affirmative action. I highly recommend you all go check that out. We need a really strong ruling from the Supreme Court, not just the unsurprising ruling that Harvard is discriminating, that they need to stop doing that. We need to establish some principles. We didn't choose to be born Asian, and what Harvard is doing is by trying to judge us on something we cannot control is basically making us ashamed of being Asian. That's really sad because no one should be ashamed of their race in this country. Absolutely agree. Harvard's policy forces that into consideration. Legacy media outlets centered this coverage of the Supreme Court cases on Bloom and his conservative leanings. One article from CNN said that he had designed the arguments to reach a friendly Supreme Court, although Blum affirmed that opposing affirmative action is a policy that crosses racial and partisan lines. There's an old expression, every lawsuit needs a villain, and the corollary to that is every lawsuit needs a hero. I see myself as neither a hero nor villain, Bloom commented. Sometimes media outlets look for a human angle as opposed to concentrating and focusing on the legal issues and the policy issues. It's a bit of an intellectually lazy way of going about making a story more interesting. I definitely think there is some truth to that, but the main focus is that you have these universities that are pushing affirmative action and basically screwing over somebody for literally their ethnicity or the color of their skin, which is crazy to me. And it's crazy that the Democrat Party historically has done some very bad things. I don't know, Ku Klux Klan, segregation, slavery was predominantly a Democrat thing. I'm not saying there weren't Republicans that did it, but God, they were few. They were really, really few and far between. Most of the Democrat Party, and it's just interesting how they are still going towards not just a metaphorical plantation, but wanting to still freaking screw people over based on the color of their skin. I mean, history repeats itself, folks, does it not? But hell, you're still going to have people that think Joe Biden's doing a good job. You're still going to have people that want to vote blue, even though they're pulling this kind of shenanigans. And they complain about the diversity quotas. They complain about racism. They complain about all these things, which they should complain about. Nobody likes racism. Nobody likes people being judged based on the color of their skin. They should be judged based on the character. But that's not what they believe in. So at one end, they believe this, but on the other end, it completely contradicts their whole story. They do the same thing with free speech. Oh, we want free speech for everybody, except those that go against our narrative. It's the same ideology. It's all hypocrisy at the end of the day, folks. They're about to be shellacked at the polls, these midterms, with a red wave. For every 8 to 9 new Democrats, or rather Republicans, there's one new Democrat, folks. Make sure you support us by hitting that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you tomorrow here on The Paul Brad Show.